Welcome to Married to Movies. Industry insiders John Russell and Tracy Kring live and work happily in cinematrimony. They're sharing behind-the-scenes adventures of writing, producing, and appreciating films.
Okay,
good morning, babe.
Good morning, babe.
Good morning, babe. False start.
False start. Flag on the play. You weren't into it today, you said.
I was talking about a friend of mine and some advice I gave her, and I was using like the podcast as an example this morning. It's
cheap therapy.
Yeah, it is. It's a Sunday morning. We've gotten in the habit of recording on Sunday mornings.
Well, I said that we should have done it yesterday.
Well, that's fine and well, but I had stuff I had to do yesterday. I had to finish watching Kingdom of the Planet of Apes, okay?
That's true. We're going to talk
more
about
important.
that.
Sorry.
Yeah. Watching
I
Kingdom
wanted to eat a bagel and watch the rest of that movie. I fell asleep.
First of all, the bagel was so good.
Okay, so I woke up this morning.
Right.
And now I'm sitting down here and I'm just like not feeling it.
Not feeling it.
And that's what my friend had said. She texted me like, you know, she was at her work and she just really wasn't feeling it anymore. I would not choose to do this on today's Sunday morning.
Because you would not choose to do it, do you think that you're not going to do it as well? Like your enthusiasm is going to creep into the actual project and hurt your performance?
Well, I think I'm doing a poor job of emotional regulation.
Okay.
That happens to me if I'm tired.
Okay.
Even as a child, if I was oversleepy or overtired, I would have hysterical fits. I mean, that's just been me. Look, feelings, I don't know how much we should base off of feelings.
Right.
You know, because they are so micro. Like this morning, I went from, I don't want to do this. Then it's like, okay, well, let's dig a little deeper. If you had to expand upon that feeling of, I don't want to do this, I'm not feeling this anymore, what would be there?
There's a Radiohead lyric that I really love, and I may be mispronouncing the Radiohead lyric, but what I hear and I love about it is that just because you feel it doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah.
And that may not actually be the lyric, but that's the one I'm hearing, and I'm taking the value of that.
That's accurate. I mean, I didn't want to do it because my stomach felt a little weird.
Right.
Like when I dig a little deeper, it's like my stomach feels a little weird.
Right.
Like kind of bloated. And I am sleepy.
Right.
I wouldn't necessarily have slept in any longer.
Right.
Had I not gotten up to do the podcast. That really, it's not the podcast's fault.
So I think it's interesting. You're basically saying that there's this like red light on in your body that says, not feeling it, not feeling it, not feeling it. And instead of going deeper and going, okay, let's look at all the indicators. Let's look at all the switches. Let's see why I'm feeling that. People just kind of turn around and go, okay, today was not the day.
Yeah, they'll just pull the plug or do something else or just satiate that feeling immediately. You're on the Apollo mission.
Right.
All of the fucking lights are going off.
Right.
Which thing do we have to address?
Right.
You know, because at least addressing each trigger is going to make something different. It's going to make it manageable.
Right.
So I was like, okay, well, I now that I recognize I'm feeling like gassy and bloated and I'm feeling very sleepy, I have things I can do. Like maybe after we finish the podcast, I can take a little nap.
Right.
I can, you know, like probably just need to have a bowel movement.
Right.
So, okay, that's all going to clear itself up.
Right.
I'm not going to not do something because of those momentary issues.
So you had a talk for the Festival of Cinema this week. Were you feeling that?
Yeah.
You were.
Yeah.
Like even before going, it wasn't like, can we cancel this? Or
No.
if there was a way you could have canceled it, you would have.
My previous a year ago self absolutely would have tried to get out of it. But now that I'm on this medication, I I don't struggle with that anymore. I feel like it's out of the way, you know? And
yeah, you had to sit in for an hour and a half.
An hour and a half.
And just talk.
Alone. There was nobody else talking but me.
Well, you got them talking a little bit.
I did. Well,
Back and forth.
I wanted an interaction with the audience.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And I thought it was great. I thought you did a fantastic job. Who's in the room? What is it that you want to learn about? And you were able to sort of like, hey, this would be good for you, or this is
good for you to hear, or
exactly.
This is how I would address that concern you had, or I mean, look,
it was about editing, but editing is not just, cutting a movie.
Well, anybody can edit on their phone now.
Edit on your phone, or you can edit a script, or just, editing
is AI. Yeah, but I wanted to know what people's concerns were so that I knew that I could address them. Because, why are they sitting here unless they can leave with something useful? And I really wanted, that was my goal. That every person who came to hear me speak had something useful they could take away.
Absolutely.
And I kind of I really can't help it. I just say stuff.
Sure. Of course.
I don't know if I can not say things.
Of course. Sure.
Because they come into my head and I say them.
Of course.
So this one guy had introduced himself.
Oh, yeah, that guy. Yeah.
And he was older than me.
Right.
He had been editing probably much longer. And so he was talking, he told a story about an edit and that he had brought up an issue.
He brought up the issue.
No, we're not going to be specific.
Okay.
He had brought up an issue.
An issue of copyright.
Yeah, of rights.
Right.
And
did you guys get the rights for this?
And the filmmaker freaked out and immediately went cold. And then they ghosted him. Right. He never heard from them again.
Right. And he didn't get paid his final payment.
Yeah. So, I worked into the talk. If I was your friend, I would have said, keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
It's not your problem.
Right.
And I went a little bit further and said, it's because people get stuck in what they think a thing should be.
Right.
And that filmmaker's sitting there. And instead of saying, well, can we cut the shot? Can we put it in a blurry area of the shot? To them, it was more important that this copyrighted material be shown in a shot than the movie be finished. That's dumb.
I've always felt like you don't bring up a problem unless you already have some sort of an idea of a solution. And you don't ask a question unless you already have some sort of an idea of an answer.
Did you?
When it comes to business.
I don't think it's in the zeitgeist of common consciousness now. But when I was growing up in high school,
of common consciousness,
we had narcs.
So many narcs.
Anytime somebody came to school, and if they did not look our age, that's a narc.
Yes.
And we would be like, oh, that's an undercover cop.
Absolutely.
We know it.
Yeah.
They're here to listen to us. And then the more friendly they were, oh God, they're a narc. And if somebody went and told somebody something, they narked on you.
Right.
So that's just heavily in me, not to be a narc.
Right.
I'm working with this director and I had a problem with the edit. I was looking for some shots and I could not find them on the hard drive that they gave me. So I had said, hey, I'm missing some of these shots. Can you check your hard drive for it? And he had said, well, we shot a lot of singles that day, because it was a 2-camera. We shot a lot of singles that day, so that doesn't surprise me. I got my round of feedback and it was put this shot in, he's supposed to react to this, put that in.
Right.
And I was just looking through my footage again.
We ain't got that, man.
Don't have that.
We don't have that.
So I texted again and said, this is the same issue I was experiencing a month ago.
Right.
I'd be happy to make these changes, but I really and truly do not have these shots on my hard drive.
Yep.
Can you look at your files and see if they're on yours? And if they are, send them to me.
Absolutely. No bueno, man.
And he came back. He said, well, I don't see them on my hard drive either. He's like, well, it looks like I'm going to have to reshoot that. And I'm like, well, if you're going to reshoot it's more than just that one scene that would be great if you could reshoot.
Right.
Because it'll solve a lot of other issues.
You're already going to be doing a reshoot.
Let's just do Let's just do the whole thing. And he's like, well, there's issues with Airbnb, or there's issues with this or that. And I'm like talking him through it. But I'm like actively being part of the solution. Right. Because it doesn't do me any good if a client freaks out and drops the project. Right. And I know other people working on the project, and I want everyone to be able to complete.
Well, I had said, I believe in that workshop, that the phrase "don't kill the messenger" was created
because people were killing messengers.
People kill messengers.
Yeah. Yes. Nobody wants to hear bad news.
They don't want to know.
You.
They don't want to know. And your immediate reaction is to lash out at the person who is giving you the bad news.
Right. And I understand that. And I understand the position that how he must be feeling. Mm-hmm. So I was just always like forward moving. Like, well, if you're going to reshoot, let's reshoot and do some things that help the film. But then at the end, you know, if I felt like he was getting a little bit depressed about it, I was like, look, the good news is I turned in a fully cut film. Right. Without the footage. Right. Like, that's the good news.
Yeah,
we're fine.
The problem has already been solved.
I solved all the issues already. There's no problem.
So all we're doing is going up from here.
This is just making it consistent.
We're just adding another layer on the cake here, baby.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's just going to make it even better.
Yes.
And, you know, will actually get you what you want for the scene. You technically don't have to reshoot at all.
We had a situation that we were talking to, and, you know, somebody who, you know, might be becoming a part of the Sky Valley project. And I learned something about myself, you know, in that situation. Mm-hmm. And I think what I learned about myself is that I have really become like, I have an expectation of a response that people who are going to be doing a great job are going to be giving me. Like, there's a kind of response to a project that if I don't get that from somebody, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that ain't going to work. Yeah, that ain't going to work. I'm not getting, you know, and there are different kinds of people. There's different, you know, and I really felt like, man, that was some very conservative thinking on my part. Mm-hmm. I was very stuck. I was very stuck in my lane because, you know, there's something that I personally like. You know, there's a kind of an energy that I respond very, very well to.
Well, I think both of us, I mean, we're pretty like outward energy people. Like our energy is pushing outwards, I feel like. Even though I would call myself an introvert, like my energy pushes out. Right. And so your energy pushes out.
Oh, yeah.
But some people don't have that kind of yo-yo energy.
Yeah.
And
they're more even keel.
But I think for you and I, that reads uninterested, right? That reads nonplussed.
But what happened is that when you actually went down the line of the way this person responded, it was very positive.
Yeah,
you know, there were like, so many positive things.
It's like an ego thing. I think it has become an ego thing.
Well, I don't know if it's an ego thing, because I kind of felt like somebody questioned me, like, oh, you know, do you really need them to like kiss your ass? It's not a kiss ass thing.
No,
it's not.
No, but it has to be at some level, some insecurity that needs reassuring.
Right.
I mean, at some level, right? You dig down into it.
I feel like that is really one of the major problems.
Are they the cool kids?
And we need to stop thinking of people as liberal and conservative. Okay, we need to stop thinking of that. I mean, I've always considered myself liberal. I am massively. I believe I'm massively liberal, but I found myself being too conservative in that particular situation.
Well, you're liberal with food. You're liberal with. I'm saying it's a character trait.
There was a resistance in people who call themselves conservatives because it's like there's been this test in life, and it's like, okay, I figured that part out. I figured race out, or I figured sexuality out, or I figured whatever it is out. I figured that out. And then I'm further into this test. I'm further into the SAT. And now people want me to go back and change my answers.
Well,
because I have new information now.
Yeah, and
we resent that because it's like, because
change.
Yeah, right. Because I'm going back, that means that, I'm not as smart as I thought I was.
No, I'm not as right.
Yes.
I'm not as right as I thought I was.
Yes, exactly.
No, and I would say as filmmakers, we're liberal.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some things that we're conservative about. I had a breakthrough personally, emotionally, because we had this response, and then the people on the team, the men on the team, were trying to give alternate opinions.
Right.
Like give the other side of the view, right? Like, well, that's how you feel, but have you considered this? And it was all just valid.
Yeah.
Debating.
It was a
friendly.
It was a great
no
debate.
Problem.
No. There was no negativity at all.
Lots of care and lots of energy going into making a decision. Right. And I realized that, wow, I rebelled against pretty much everything. And it became more about disagreeing than listening.
Right.
And then later, whenever the same things were brought up and we had more female teammates, we did have a female teammate on the call on that. And she moved the needle for me.
Right.
I didn't notice that at the time. But when the next female got on, everything she said was what male teammates had already said.
Right.
But the second she said it, it soaked in.
Sure.
And I was like, oh, shit. I think that's because I hear from women.
Right.
I don't.
If you've been abused your entire life by a sex, of course, when somebody else comes into a situation.
It's not even as strong as abuse.
It is abuse.
Sure,
it's a form of abuse. It's a form of control. It's a form of enforcing their perspective, their ways on everything.
Well, my thing about it being abuse is I think a lot of times it's not deliberate. It's just a privilege that certain people walk in.
Absolutely.
And they feel like because they are convinced of who they are and what they believe, they get to pound everybody else in the head with it. Let's say you have a little bit more money or a little bit more time that you can invest in making sure the movie reflects your values,
Right.
And right now, so many of our departments have a male and a female.
Right.
And that's what I want. You and I agree on a lot, but also it was funny because our producer said that working with us, he figured that it might go that we were a couple and we would team up against him. And he would always be fighting us.
It would be you and I against
right.
him.
And he's like, I realize I'm dealing with three completely separate humans.
We are complete individuals.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's the thing about loyalty. I told you recently this story about staying home from school and reading The Crucible. It could be that The Crucible created this in me because I read that so many times. I read it over and over and it so connected with me and resonated with me whenever, the Daniel Day-Lewis character, what's his name? John Proctor.
Right.
Whenever they're just like, good God, John, just freaking say, okay, fine, I did this shit, you know,
Right.
just say it, you
Yeah.
know,
And then everything will be over.
and then it'll all
Right.
be done.
Right.
Why won't you just do it? And he's like, because it's my name.
It's my name.
It's
Yes.
the only
Right.
name I'll ever have.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and like, I don't know. I maybe I already felt that way, and it was a confirmation.
It was, yeah.
Or maybe I created it in that moment.
It is it's a point of honor. It's a point of, it's a point of having respect. You know, having respect for yourself and not being manipulated. That very well also, you know, you talk about the Crucible. Talk about people trying to convince you of things.
I think I think
about
Arthur Miller like did this.
What's brilliant about the Crucible is it starts out as almost like a John Hughes movie. Okay, it's about teenagers. It's about it's about, you know, silliness and playfulness and, you know, just boy, those girls out in the woods and they're just like having a party. Woo, boy, does that go wrong?
The whole like Tituba's testimony that she gave, like when you actually read like what happened, it's funny because it's like, yeah, this was some white dude that manipulated this woman, and this is all kind of like code,
right?
You know, that he promised me all these riches and he promised me all these things. This is just a white dude trying to get this, you know, woman to sleep with him, and then, you know, her kind of dealing with her own trauma, and finding other people who've had traumas. Unfortunately, the white dudes that did the thing are taking it out on the white men and women who did not do the thing.
Right.
You know, and somebody needs to be punished, and let's punish them to keep ourselves out of the fire.
Do you want to be unhappy and holy?
Right.
Or does thou want to live deliciously?
Right. Right. Montage, time passage. Emmeline does her morning routine day after day. We see her crops grow. She plays old videos of her family. She cuts her hair a little shorter, different vegetables for dinner, maintaining the ship, working on Robbie. Emmeline types into the keyboard.
Playback, cosmic anomalies. The entire ship is filled with colorful galaxy with a tiny version of her ship moving through the Majesty. She walks up to the virtual ship and traces its path with her finger.
Interior ship cockpit space. Emmeline is sitting in front of a microphone as the computer types everything that she says.
Emmeline, I like bears. Not as much as robots, which I've told you about before. I've never heard of a robot bear. A bear is a mammal on the earth who's covered in fur. They are sometimes named after the color of that fur. Brown bear or black bear. We used to have polar bears. They are white and lived in our Arctic. There are also pandas and koalas and sun bears and speckled bears and sloth bears, Kodiak bears, and even a Himalayan blue bear, even though it's not really blue and it's kind of all the other bears rolled into one. I almost forgot grizzlies. There are more too. Some of my favorite bears aren't even real. There's the country bears or Berenstein bears, but my favorite is Winnie the Pooh. He has a lot of friends and they're kind of sad in different ways, but Pooh, as he's called, just wants to eat honey and have a nice day. There's also Tigger, but I will tell you about him when I tell you about cats. If bears sound like something you would like to see, then please come to Earth or just communicate with me. I don't know how many bears are around anymore, but we have zoos, which are kind of prisons for animals. And we could show you videos, of course. Send to Robbie. That will pique their interest.
The computer screen reports, unable to send message.
Emmeline. Diagnostic, on Vox.
Computer. Communications array unresponsive, unable to send message at this time.
Emmeline. Recommendations on repair.
Computer. No recommendations. Exterior damage communications cannot be restored within warp bubble.
Emmeline. We have a problem. Find the problem, fix the problem, move on. Find the problem, fix the problem, move on. Find the problem, fix the problem, move on. Exterior damage, unable to send communications, not within warp bubble. Robbie?
Robbie comes over.
Do a timeline search for keywords communication, warp bubble, dark fluid, time dilation, space scrape.
Robbie projects a computer screen with the number of listings for each word.
Play 002.
A video comes up of Grace and Jeffrey. Grace. Communication is very important, Emmy. Even if you don't understand what someone is saying, you don't relate, sometimes you have to pretend like you do.
Emmeline. Robbie, recalibrate files to only include 6 years at Origian.
Robbie shows a new screen with different numbers of files. Emmeline looks at the files. She sees one that includes several of her search terms.
Play file 1165. Robbie plays a classroom lecture. During the lecture, VR images are used in animations of the scientific explanations.
Teacher, the Alcubierre drive, Alcubierre warp drive, or Alcubierre metric tensor is based on a solution of Einstein's field equations in general relativity as proposed by theoretical physicist Miguel Alcubierre, by which a spacecraft could achieve apparent faster than light travel if a configurable energy density field lower than that of a vacuum, that is, negative mass, could be created. Rather than exceeding the speed of light within a local reference frame, a spacecraft would traverse distances by contracting space in front of it and expanding space behind it, resulting in effective faster-than-light travel. Objects cannot accelerate to the speed of light within the normal space-time. Instead, the Alcubierre drive shifts space around an object so that the object would arrive at its destination faster than light would in normal space without breaking any physical laws.
Emmeline, play file 5785.
Teacher 2. The astrophysicist Jamie Farnes from the University of Oxford proposed the theory that unifies dark energy and dark matter into a single dark fluid, which were tested in 2030. Farnes found that Albert Einstein had explored the idea of gravitationally repulsive negative masses while developing the equations of general relativity, an idea which leads to a beautiful hypothesis where the cosmos has equal amounts of positive and negative qualities. Farnes' theory relies on negative masses that behave identically to the physics of the Alcubierre drive, providing a natural solution for the current crisis in cosmology due to a time variable Hubble parameter. Emmeline, play file 1843.
Teacher 3. A spaceship appropriately located with respect to the bubble trajectory could then choose to enter the bubble rather like a passing trolley car, and thus make the superluminal journey. As Krasnikov points out, causality considerations do not prevent the crew of a spaceship from arranging by their own actions to complete a round trip from Earth to a distant star and back in an arbitrarily short time, as measured by clocks on Earth, by altering the metric along the path of their outbound trip.
Emmeline, next.
Theoretically, we cannot be sure what kind of space you will encounter. The same way that air has mass, so does space. It is possible that you will encounter sections of space that will be heavier than other sections. Imagine a drive on a polluted day in a metropolitan city as opposed to a clean country road. As you accelerate through the heavier air, you will experience a wearing down of the automobile microscopically. Traveling in a warp bubble, you may experience what we will call space scrape, a wearing down of external instruments. Theoretically, the bubble will contain the largest part of that effect. There not only is heavy space, but you could pass through ion fields, gold dust, and a million other things.
Emmeline, play Prime Video 999.
Ian Solange. The most important thing I can say is never stop the ship. Never drop out of your bubble. The moment you stop, you're losing years and millions of miles. Every problem can be solved within the bubble. The bubble is life. It is imperative to give this mission the greatest chance of success that you never stop the ship.
Emmeline, freeze program. Never stop the ship. Never stop the ship. But the mission is to make contact, Robbie. We can't contact anyone right now. Find the problem. The problem is we can't communicate without falling out of warp. Fix the problem. We can't fix the problem without falling out of warp. The bubble is life. Move on. We can't move on.
Emmeline grabs a pad and paper and starts scribbling insane equations impossibly fast. She checks her math.
It costs us valuable time. What if I do make contact? I couldn't communicate with them or back to Earth. People don't like it when you can't communicate with them. We might make them mad. I think we have to risk it, Robbie.
Emmeline flies into action. She scurries around the ship with a canvas bag, picking up various tools and wires. She also finds a long rope and cuts it into various lengths. She opens cabinets and gathers communication components. Her bag is getting noticeably heavy.
It's a good thing this stuff will be weightless out there, Robbie.
She drags her tools to the airlock and puts them inside. She takes off her uniform and puts on the suit that is provided for emergency spacewalks. She goes to the command center of the ship and types into the keyboard.
Stop Alcubierre warp drive.
Suddenly, all the lights on the ship go to a deep red tone and a holographic image appears before her of Ian Solange. Ian, I am programmed for emergency situations.
Emmeline, this is an emergency. I cannot communicate.
Stopping the warp drive is not an option.
Emmeline, but if I can't communicate, then there's no point in me being out here.
Stopping the warp drive is not an option.
Emmeline, override hologram.
Stopping the warp drive is not an option.
Emmeline thinks for a second and chooses her words carefully. Emmeline, in order to move on, I have to stop the Alcubierre warp drive. I need you to trust me. I was trained well. Let me do my job. Please? Find the problem, fix the problem, move on.
The hologram seems to process her plea. The lights on the ship change back to their normal spectrum. Ian, the ship is yours.
The hologram disappears. Emmeline looks at Robbie. Emmeline, something I said worked.
Emmeline powers down the warp drive and sets a timer for her repair.
I like heavy science.
Yeah,
I like
I think you have to have some heavy science in like something, you know, like this. You know, I mean, even in Sky Valley, we have some, you know, some pretty heavy science.
There's like a thing though where I really like trying to read it fast. It's kind of like reading The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like an Olympic sport.
Right. Let us not
well,
forget.
I was going to say, speaking of the Olympics, let's not forget that lady who did that break dance. Really weird. I'm enjoying all those memes.
I don't know what that was.
I mean, it's like
crazy.
People are like, oh, you shouldn't be making fun of her. Like she's made it to the Olympics.
I mean,
it was really weird.
I feel like it was almost a goof. I want to just mention that I highly recommend Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. That was a really great movie.
Yeah, well,
all of them have been really good, except for the Tim Burton one.
Oh yeah, you know, I don't remember much about that one, but
that was like Mark Wahlberg was in it.
Yeah, I still don't remember much about it.
Yeah,
that didn't help. But the Kingdom of the Planet of Apes, I thought was really interesting because it was like very much religious.
Yes, it was. And I read about it, and it was sort of like the Planet of the Apes were in their Bronze Age. Yes, it was kind of like, you know, and the idea that there had been this trilogy with Caesar, and then Caesar had died.
Right. And he became kind of like the new religious messiah.
Yeah, the religious messiah. And of course, people, you know, two different
perverted religion.
Yeah, two different kind of ape
His
plans.
message, like,
right.
Yeah, there was like
the orangutan, he got it. He was cool.
Yeah, but like, was that the original orangutan?
No.
Oh, he was.
No, this was like 300 years later, man.
Yeah, I know. It said generations later.
Apparently, the orangutans are like the wise ones. Yeah. They're like the Yodas.
I guess so. Yeah. But the gorillas are kind of like the just power.
Yeah. The gorillas are like the
less
muscle.
Agile.
But it was extraordinarily good.
Well, I was like, can I say this? I'm gonna say this. Whenever like his whole family gets taken like hostage,
right?
Like I thought he was like gonna go there. It was gonna be like a prison camp.
Mm-hmm.
But the main guy, the bad guy, Proximus,
right?
He just kind of like wanted followers and wanted laborers, but it wasn't like you were in chains or anything.
No. But I think what's interesting.
You're definitely oppressed.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing.
But it was like religious oppression.
Right. But that's the thing. Yeah, exactly. They had like the little thing on their head that was like, you know, you're now part of this cult.
Yeah.
You know, and they would have church.
Yeah.
They would have church like twice a day.
And they would try to do miracles and they wouldn't work. And it was very much the
trying to open up. Yes, exactly. Maybe we'll be stronger tomorrow. Yeah.
Whenever he was like talking to his mom was like, that's the law.
Yeah, that's the law.
But like the law is very convenient if you're in power.
But Noah was like, the law is wrong.
The law is wrong.
Which is, you know, that's a big moment for somebody.
Yeah.
You know,
to realize that like a lot of the things they were maybe raised with,
right,
is stupid.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That the ideas that have been planted within them. Oh, well, there's turkeys. There's turkeys hanging out
Every
there.
time I see the wild turkeys outside, I think of the Skeksis. Don't they look like Skeksis?
They are kind of Skeksis-ish. Yeah.
To stop yourself from doing something based on those little stupid micro feelings you're probably only going to feel for 5 or 10 minutes.
Right.
That would be really like hampering of life and of forward motion.
Right.
You know, like just feel them, acknowledge them, dig into them a little bit, see if there's anything else there that you can affect change in. You know, a lovely little cool breeze started coming from outside, so I stopped being hot. You know, we had like a microphone malfunction this morning, and that had annoyed me.
Sure.
Because my feeling was like, I'm already doing something I'm not crazy about doing, and I'm having problems.
Yes. I think you did a really good job on it, though.
Well, you know what?
You got it working.
I'll show you. Well, I said I need something kind of like foamy and soft.
And what did I bring you?
You found the most useless object.
Totally useless.
The most useless objects in
I think
humanity.
the only thing that those things will hold up is a poster.
No, I don't even think they'll hold a poster up.
They're
no, because we had a poster hanging up there, and it fell down.
They're so awful.
These command strips are a sham.
Yes.
There
is no command to a command strip.
No, they have no command. They command nothing.
Yes.
These, with their lack of proper adhesion, have no chance against any humidity in the house.
No. When you're trying to hang something.
I've been scared by those things more often than I can count. Because I'll think, oh, look, I got it to hang up and it's not going to. No. And then bang in the middle of the night, or bang while I'm sitting next to something falling.
Yes.
They're bullshit.
They're bullshit. Don't waste your time on command strips, folks.
I mean, I've got like an entire giant like gallon bag of them.
Yeah.
And they're all bullshit.
Yeah.
Every time I move, I buy them and I never get to use them.
What are you going to do?
It's hard not to get romantic about movies. Thanks for listening to Married to Movies. Jon and Tracy will meet you for breakfast tomorrow.